From American actors who became governors, the former later elected president, the latter known for the phrase,
"I'll be back,"
to Chima and Chinua, two of Africa's most famous authors who, though not related by some freaky coincidence, lived in the same house several years apart. And sadly, things did fall apart. Two American T-Ribs and German M. Schumacher, Formula One aficionados, born on the same day. From America's first black ballerina to Robert Ballard. From Indian author, teacher of yoga, BKS Iyengar, who reminds us that we're not getting any younger, to the drama in Bahama and the rumble in the jungle, a killer and a chiller and the thriller in Manila, to Malala and Lilibeth, the former whose son almost set in the SWAT district from an assassin's bullet, the latter Her Royal Majesty, whose empire the sun, it was said, never set, to the exquisite beauty of our expansive, expanding, and majestic universe. Whatever takes your fancy, there's something for everyone right here, right now. Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Sotonye Afiesimama, and this is Today in History for January 29th. Join me as we journey through history and I share important events as recorded on this day in history. Coming up in today's Today in History, just like I promised yesterday, two inventors named CKarl, a billionaire talk show hostess, and a Russian playwright will all be featuring today. He was also a medical doctor. Can you believe this? A Russian playwright who was also a medical doctor. Of course, there's loads more. Intrigued? Let's get cracking. So, the year was 1843. And this was the day that William McKinley was born. William McKinley, pictured here, was the 25th president of the United States, serving from 1897 until his assassination, pictured here, sadly, in 1901. During his presidency, McKinley led the nation to victory in the Spanish-American War, raised protective tariffs to promote American industry, and kept the nation on the gold standard. So sadly, President William McKinley was assassinated in 1901 on the 14th of September, but he was born on this day, January 29th, in 1843. So this painting depicts the day that he was assassinated in 1901, September 14th, 1901. So let's now move on to the year 1860. This guy, clever dude, who I alluded to at the beginning, his name is Anton Pavlovich Chekhov. He was born on this day in 1860. He was a playwright and short story writer, considered to be among the greatest writers of short fiction in history. His career as a playwright produced 4 classics, and his best short stories are held in high esteem by writers and critics. So I did mention he was also a medical doctor. So along with Henrik, Ibsen, and August Strindberg, Chekhov is often referred to as one of the 3 seminal figures in the birth of early modernism in the theatre. Chekhov, like I mentioned earlier, practiced as a medical doctor throughout most of his literary career. And he says this Medicine is my lawful wife, and literature is my mistress. Wink, wink. Naughty boy Chekhov. Anyway, Chekhov, Anton Pavlovich Chekhov, was born on this day in 1860. He was a Russian playwright and short story writer, and also a medical doctor. I don't know what he looks more like in this picture, honestly. I'm a bit puzzled. Does he look more like a medical doctor or more like a playwright here? I think it's a bit more like a playwright in this picture. That's my own opinion. What do you think? Drop me a comment in the comment section. Let's move on now to the next event on this day. 1886 is the year, and this is one of the Karls that I mentioned at the outset. His name is Karl Benz, German mechanical engineer. He patented the first practical automobile powered by an internal combustion engine, the Benz patent Motorwagen. 1886 was the year, and this is Karl Benz, a guy obviously behind the Mercedes-Benz car that we know today. Karl Benz, pictured here, patented the first practical automobile powered by an internal combustion engine. 1886, January 29th. More pictures of Karl Benz and his, I was going to say his contraption. That would have sounded a bit rude, but yeah, that's his invention. What later became Mercedes-Benz brand. German mechanical engineer. A few more pictures coming up. Again, more pictures. German engine designer and car engineer, generally regarded as the inventor of the gasoline-powered automobile, Karl Benz. So again, same automobile pictured here. So again, Karl Benz, German mechanical engineer, patented the first practical automobile powered by an internal combustion engine on this day in 1886. Let's move on to the first machine for rolling ice cream cones. That also was patented on this day, and his name was also Karl. In this case, Karl Rutherford Taylor of Cleveland, Ohio. He patented the first machine for rolling ice cream, and of course I'm going to show you. You don't know what the machine looks like, but I'm sure it's worth showing you a picture as well. So again, that's the machine, the ice cream machine. Obviously this is not the first one. This is a more modern version. But yes, the guy who was behind the first machine for rolling ice cream. So in case you don't know or you don't remember what it looks like, this is what it looks like. So this is, a more advanced model, more advanced version of his machine. Okay, let's move on now to the next event as recorded on this day. The year was 1926. Violet Neatley Anderson, she became, on this day, the first African-American woman to practice law before the United States Supreme Court. 1926 was the year again, and this was the day that she became the first African-American woman to practice law before the United States Supreme Court. She was one of the most prominent advocates of a landmark piece of legislation that helped secure rights and economic mobility for sharecroppers in the South. It was called the Bankhead-Jones Act. So this woman didn't just become the first African-American woman to practice law. She took it a step further and helped secure rights and economic mobility for sharecroppers in the South, called the Bankhead-Jones Act. So hats off to her. She's done very well. Becoming the first of anything, the first to do anything is an achievement, but we have to put that into perspective, because sometimes, I think in most cases it's luck, in most cases it's luck, because you happen to be at the right place at the right time. You become the first to achieve something. Yes, you've worked hard. Yeah, I'm not going to take that away from anyone. You work hard to achieve this thing, but becoming first, especially at the time when, most people are not aware about that particular profession or that particular event or that particular sport. In the case of Roger Bannister, for instance, but you still have to work hard to achieve that feat, So not downplaying on that, but I think the fact that she did something about her position was more important. The fact that she helped sharecroppers legally, helped them achieve what they wanted. I'm going to go through the sharecropper thing again. It says here, she helped secure rights and economic mobility, very important for sharecroppers in the South. So that was a very, very good thing that she did, Okay, so, in life, it's not all about us. It shouldn't be all about us and what we've achieved. What have you done for other people? What have you helped other people achieve? In this case, this lady did quite well. Jermaine Greer is the next person to be featured today, and that's her pictured here. She is an Australian writer and public intellectual. She was born on this day in 1939, so she's 82 years old today. Happy birthday to the radical Jermaine Greer. I've seen some of her interviews, so she's not your ordinary writer. She's regarded as one of the major voices of the radical feminist movement. Did I say radical? I didn't even realize it was radical in this sentence. In the latter half of the 20th century. So regarded as one of the major voices of the radical feminist movement in the latter half of the 20th century. So Jermaine Greer, happy birthday. Born on this day, she is an Australian writer and public intellectual. She's 82 years old today. Also on this day in 1942, this individual, this man here, this astronaut, Arnaldo Tamayo Mendez, was born. He is a Cuban military officer, legislator, and former cosmonaut. Oh, they're called cosmonaut. Okay, he's from Cuba, so I guess the connection with Cuba and Russia, the Russians call their astronauts, or the people who go to space. I shouldn't define them by American terms, should I? So, Cuban cosmonaut and first person of African heritage in space. As a member of the crew of Soyuz 38, he became the first Cuban citizen, the first Latin American, the first person of African descent, and the first person from a country in the Western Hemisphere other than the United States to travel into Earth orbit. Wow. Again, Arnaldo Tamayo Mendez was born on this day in 1942, a man of many firsts. 1954, on this day, 12 years later, billionaire TV mogul, billionaire talk show host, Oprah Winfrey, was born in Kosciuszko, Mississippi. She is most well known for her self-titled television show, Oprah, which became the highest-rated talk show in television history. Oprah is also an Academy Award-nominated actress, a magazine publisher, and the only African-American female billionaire. A generous philanthropist, she founded the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls in South Africa. So, Oprah Winfrey, happy birthday. Oprah is 67 years old today. Can you believe that? Oprah Winfrey, 67-year-old, born on the 29th of January, 1954. So that's another artwork of Oprah, born on this day, 1954. So yet another portrait. Last but not least, this is a picture, obviously. Oprah Winfrey, happy birthday, happy 67th birthday. Last but not least, 1972 was the year, and of course the day was the 29th of January, and this might come as a surprise to you guys, but that this is the reason for my existence. But before that, Romário, Brazilian football player, Romário, was one of the most prolific goal scorers in the sports history. He was born on this day in 1966. So happy birthday, Romário. Brazilian football player or soccer player, as Americans would say. He was born on this day in 1966, one of the most prolific goal scorers in the sports history. Right, so let's go back to the event that led to my being here today. Pictured in this photograph here, kneeling down in front of the priest, are my mom and dad, who got married on this day in 1972. My dad's name, sadly, he's passed on, Dr. Samuel Benedict Sotonye Afiesimama. And my mom, who also later became a doctor. My dad was a medical doctor. My mom is a PhD. She's a linguist. Dr. Abigail Funlayo Afiesimama. Her maiden name was Alagwa, so yeah, they got married on this day in 1972. Exemplary parents, worked very hard. They also were first in their professions. My dad was the first medical doctor from my village. The second from my village, but the first from my how do I put this now? My smaller village, if you like. I won't say hamlet, my town, if you like. It's a difficult one. So I come from a town called Ogoloma, and Ogoloma is in Okrika local government area. Ogoloma is one of the 9 towns that make up the local government area, or the people that make up that area. So Okrika is larger than Ogoloma. So the first medical doctor comes from Okrika, and the second one in my local government area is my dad, but the first from our own town. So enough of all the explanation. So that's my dad and my mom. My mom also worked with, she's taught for several years, several decades, thousands of students, linguistics, English language. She also worked in the Women's Commission. She was the first female administrator of the old River State. So when River State was created in 1967, she was an administrator in the state government, the first female administrator. So exemplary parents, worked very hard. Sadly, my dad is passed on, like I said. My mom's still around. She's 75 years old today. It just, tells you about how life moves very quickly, how time flies, how, one day you're very young, the next day you're old and gray. Next thing, you've kicked the bucket. The next generation's coming up. History is repeating itself. We're getting older. We're having kids. They're getting older. And then sometimes you step back and think, what's this life about? Is it just to be born, to live, and to die? We have to make an impact when we're around, when we have the chance to, while we still have strength, to impact the world. And that's part of the reason why I'm doing this channel. Why this channel is out there. It's going to be there after I'm long gone. Hopefully it inspires millions of people worldwide. We all learn. Hopefully we learn from history. And when we see events that have a semblance to historical events, we can do something about it. We can say, well, this thing happened 100 years ago. This is what led to the First World War, for instance. And these similar events are happening now. Is there something we can do to avert a Third World War from happening? That's just an example. So that's why history is important, I think, because history tends to repeat itself. We cannot get away from that fact. History tends to repeat itself. That's why a businessman can go to investors and say, this is what I've done over the last 5 years, over the last 5 months, over the last 10 years. I've achieved this success. Can I have funding for my business? This is my projection for the future. He's more likely to get that funding because he can prove from past events, from his record, that this thing works, So, and they know, these business people are intelligent enough to know that history tends to repeat itself. So, enough of my pontificating. So that is it for today. But before I end, I'm going to show you one more picture of my mom and dad, and then we'll just call it wraps for today. Yeah, so another picture, this time of most of the people who attended the wedding. Half of the people in this picture are gone, believe it or not. I think, I can safely say so, that at least half of the adults here Yeah, half of the adults here are gone. Pictured here is my grandfather, my mother's father, Wilberforce Edward Alagwa, who was honored by the Queen of England. He had an MBE, I believe, member of the British Empire. He also was a first in his time. He was a school inspector in the southern region of Nigeria. That's his son, who was a Supreme Court judge, retired now, Stanley Shenko Alagwa. That's my uncle there. CKarl Afiesimama. That's funny. That's from Facebook, by the way. So, yeah, interesting. I tagged him. That's a cousin of mine, George Wilson, who's an artist. Aunties and uncles. He's late now. Also on my mother's side, Garrick. I think that's Dr. Garrick, if I remember. Lived in the UK for a while. I can't recognize some of the faces. That's my step-grandma, whose son. So this is paternal now. Her last son lives in America as a university professor, Dr. Afiesimama. And my maternal grandma, and that man over there is the father of this boy here. That is Mr. Ola Wilson, my dad's best friend. We call ourselves, call him uncle, obviously, call his son my cousin. These two guys in their 50s, mid-50s now, yeah. Who else? Auntie Augusta, she's now late. She used to live in America as well, died about 12 years ago. And that's her sister. I don't remember who that lady is. My Uncle Boyce there in the background. My dad's uncle, my dad's mother's brother, long gone as well, died over 20 years ago. So guys, c'est la vie, as they say, such is life. We come here, we hang around for a bit, and we're gone. So we just have to make the best of life. You know, this is not meant to be some sort of sad video, but that is just life. Life just has to be told the way it is. Thanks for dropping by once again. I hope I've not left you sad. But just do the best you can with your life while you're around. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. All we have is now. So we'll take advantage of now and then do the best that we can. So that's it for today. Thanks for dropping by. Coming up in tomorrow's Today in History, before you go anywhere, Harvard's first African-American graduate, Gandhi, Washington DC's first female mayor, and of course, loads more. See you tomorrow when all will be revealed. Thanks for dropping by once again. Stay safe, and I shall see you on the 30th of January tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.